Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Upstate Roots podcast. My name is David Bliss. I'm here with my co-host, Melissa Cowart, and Katie Davenport, the executive director of the Greenwood Promise. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This is super exciting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Ish.
This is fun.
Yeah.
This is fun. Let's start off with just hearing kind of where you're from. What got you here?
Where are we at?
Oh, yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah.
Okay.
Where are you from? How'd you get here?
So I'm originally from 96. My mom is from the area. My dad's actually from Albany, New York, and he was in the Air Force. So I was born in Virginia, went to Myrtle Beach Air Force, and my mom brought him back here. And he didn't know where he was going. He wasn't sure what the numbers were.
Right.
And then I went to 96 high school, graduated, went to Clemson, and came back to Greenwood when I graduated.
And you graduated education, or was that a later?
Yeah, that was later. I started out actually in pre-veterinary medicine.
Right.
At Clemson, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
And then the guy who I was dating, who is now my husband, was already here working in Greenwood, and he wanted me to skip vet school because he wanted me to get back home and get married. And so I said, okay, sure. And so I switched my major about halfway through and started with microbiology and finished out in that, and then came back here and worked at the genetics center.
What was that like? What was your work over there?
I worked in the cytogenetic lab. I was a cytogenetic technologist, and so I worked with blood, a lot of blood, which is okay with me because I'm a sciencey person, so stuff like that doesn't bother me.
Right.
But I would analyze the blood for the chromosomes, look for chromosomal abnormalities, and we also work with leukemia patients. To look and kind of stage the leukemia, so to speak, and see whether or not some of the treatments were working on them. So I loved it, and I still support the genetics center so much. I just felt like that probably was not my calling. So.
Gotcha. So then what got you into education?
My dad actually did. He worked he was in the military, and then he worked in law enforcement. He was a warden for Leith Correctional here in Greenwood.
Okay.
And when he retired, he decided he wanted to spend his retirement teaching special ed children. So he started in special education, and he worked in Greenwood 52 and 50, and retired, and unfortunately passed away not long after. But he said, Katie, there's a light that's missing in your eyes, and I think that what you're doing is just not a fit, and I think you need to think about teaching. So I got PACE certified as alternative certification for South Carolina.
And how long were you an educator?
Almost 15 years. It was a long time.
What took you into, or I guess what attracted you into kind of the modern plight that we have of getting kids into higher education beyond primary school?
The kids that I taught.
Yeah.
Because I taught at Westview Middle School for the majority of the time that I was a teacher. It was 8 years. I got moved to Greenwood High School. They needed a biology teacher, and I was the only one in the district who was not teaching secondary education, high school level, but who was certified to do so. So I got moved over there, and then I came back to Westview, and those kids, I love those kids, I love those families. And there were a lot of them that really would have benefited, and probably their lives would have been changed if they had been able to go on and have education past graduating from high school.
Yeah.
I think that could have been a game changer for them.
What do you think the biggest obstacle was? I mean, I'm sure that there are many, but...
I think probably the biggest obstacle for those kids, or for any kids who don't go to college, is that they may have been the first one to ever do that. You know, if the mindset is kind of set already based on what their family around them, not saying that they're bad people, you know, but if they don't have a positive educational experience, it carries on.
Yeah.
You know, what would be the purpose in doing it? My parents are fine, they're happy, but sometimes it can really be the difference between a lot of things in their life, honestly. So
what led you to this position that you're in now, which is executive director of the Greenwood Promise?
Who would have ever thought that I would be
You haven't been there long, have you?
No, I started on January 16th.
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing for me because I left my kids at Westview Middle School in the STEMS program halfway through the year. Once I told them, actually once the word got out, I cried for about a week, my last week at school, and I had a really hard time with it. but I had to have a piece about it because I felt like I was going to be able to reach a broader group of kids every year. It was kind of weird because I'd gotten my second master's in administration and supervision for education, and I could not break into an administrative role in Greenwood 50. There are so many talented people who are looking for the same thing that I was, and it wasn't happening. And now that I look back on it, I feel like it didn't happen because I feel like those doors closed because this is the one that was supposed to open.
Yeah.
I was so discouraged at the time, but now that I look back on it, I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So,
in just a few sentences, what is the Greenwood Promise?
So it is I like to use tuition assistance program instead of a scholarship because sometimes scholarships are based on different things. You have to meet certain criteria. You may get it one year, you may not get it the next year. You may have a certain amount of money that you can get. What the Greenwood Promise does is it takes any financial barrier that is left for the kid away from them so that their final focus can be working on education, not worrying about a financial strain that it may be on their parents, or if they're having to pay for it themselves, how are they going to do that? So we pay the last dollar of whatever's left from tuition and mandatory fees.
And why was something like that needed in Greenwood?
Basically because the amount of students who were going into post-secondary education once they graduated was declining. I mean, it was steady going down, and we saw a little bit of a shift with that with the rest of South Carolina as well.
Yeah.
But we're worried about our kids here in Greenwood County.
That seems like a national trend.
It is.
Yeah.
I think about 2011 is when the lottery kicked in. The only problem with that is that the tuition rates went up when the lottery money started coming in, so it still made education unattainable for some. I mean, I know when I went to school, I still had loans for several years after I graduated, and that's not something that would be something that a child who may be in a situation where they could not pay back would say, I'm going to have to step away from that and go work instead.
So we've got so many companies around here. We've got, massive companies.
Yes.
We've got Fujifilm, we've got Teijin, we've got Caterpillar, we've got Ascend, we've got, the list goes on, and it's not just here, because if you go up to Greer, we've got BMW and Boeing somewhere up, up that way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they're down in Charleston.
Yeah.
So I know, this. We had Paul Cunin on, and he was talking about how amazing South Carolina is for manufacturing jobs. Is the Greenwood Promise in part kind of structured to bolster that need in this? Because the reason that he said that essentially that's the way it is that we already have the workers. Well, those workers age out eventually, so we need more workers to come in. Why not go to the youth, right? Is that a mission at all, or is that okay?
100%. Yeah. One of I would say there are two things that drive the mission of the Greenwood Promise. One is the need for a workforce that is skilled, that fits the things that we have in our community. It's such a shame if businesses, industries have to go outside of Greenwood to find folks to work for them. So that is one thing, that we have the people here. The jobs are getting harder. You have different skill sets. Somebody who may be older may not be as much familiar with technology.
A lot of robotics. Mechatronics, yeah.
100%. So we want to take the people here who are here in Greenwood, train them up, provide the education for them. They don't have to pay anything except for their books, and then take the next step and set them up with companies that are here in Greenwood.
Right.
We are laying a path for them to be successful.
Now, I know, and this is getting a little bit of ahead, but I know that there are phases.
Right.
And the phases don't specifically address that integration, but is there planning in the future to kind of lay a pathway into those businesses? Is it kind of, we'd like to attract you guys to become a part of this as well?
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny you said that, because I went and met with some folks at Ascend. I went out there and did more or less like a donor feedback, where I went and sat down and kind of got some feedback from them on how they thought the Promise was going. And one of the things that they mentioned was, we want to see the kids that are coming out of this. How do we get in front of them?
Right.
And it's good for me because my population is smaller, and I can kind of track the kids and see what they're majoring in. today I went to senior rush at Piedmont Tech. I had 2 kids there that were mechatronics majors. I wrote their names down and identified them. I'm going to take them and put them in front of Ascend or Lonza or Tajin when it gets built up.
Right.
I'm going to make sure that contact is made.
Right.
So it's easier for me to kind of be the middleman and help these kids not only with their financial piece of it, but also say, hey, when you're done, if you are willing to hang around here, which is what we hope, I'm going to take you to these places and get a contact for you.
Right.
So I'm working on that now.
Which is kind of the opposite way that it's been done in the past, where you might go, for example, I know a family, the dad worked at ZF, which is in Lawrence, and had his son come and work there for a time, and then he went to Piedmont Tech for mechatronics, and he already had a job when he came back. Like the path was already laid out for him to go back. So that's kind of an interesting twist on that. That's usually where you see it. You're at a job, they send you to school, you come back, and now you're in a new position. This is like we're setting you up and planning your kind of next 30, 40 years in the workforce.
Exactly, and that's something that's so crucial right now because people are chomping at the bit for a more right now, solution to it. They don't want the kids to go into work, decide this is what they want to do, then go back. And the Greenwood Edge is part of that, helping them decide earlier on whether or not this is something that they would be interested in with, as far as mechatronics goes. Yeah. They can get a taste of it, they can earn that manufacturing certificate, they can either graduate and go straight into the workforce, or they can continue on and go to Piedmont Tech and finish their mechatronics, and we fund that, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Piedmont Tech is the big one.
Piedmont Tech is the big one.
When did they get involved?
I think that they've been part of the conversation from the very beginning. I mean, we are so fortunate to be in Greenwood and have a technical college and a university. I mean, there are only a certain number of places in South Carolina, certainly, that have both of those.
Right.
And so the idea was to start with the technical college, which is the way some other Promise programs have started.
Okay.
And just to kind of get that workforce, see how it goes, and it's been very successful. And then we will move into the 4-year piece of it soon.
Which is with Lander. At least in part at Lander.
Right. I mean, we want to start with Lander first, because we want homegrown talent here. We want to, keep them around.
There's a couple really good colleges in the area. I mean, you've got Anderson. I know that they're not Greenwood, but you've got Anderson not too far away. You've got Erskine just up the road. Furman, an hour away or so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some expansion that could happen there, too.
And I think, initially when we get started, because we want to be very mindful of what our mission is and how we spend the money, we want to make sure that instead of just saying you can go anywhere in South Carolina you want to and study whatever you want to and, have fun, we appreciate and we support you, which we do, but for addressing the workforce and bringing people back into the community of Greenwood, we want to make sure that we are choosing folks initially in that phase 2 that are going to have a major that they can bring back to Greenwood and study under. Right. Yeah. Just because of our funding right now.
And then you've got a phase 3, which includes, phase 1 is?
Phase 1 is 2 years at Piedmont Tech.
2 years.
Or another technical school in South Carolina if Piedmont Tech doesn't have their major.
Right. Yeah. And then phase 2 is very similar, but with the addition of?
2 years at Lander.
Right, for the completion of your bachelor. And then phase 3 is like the whole
4 years.
The whole
either
kit
2 or the whole 4,
Yeah.
And,
which is awesome.
And the other thing about the phase 2 is it could be 2 years at Piedmont Tech and then the last 2 years at Lander to finish out a degree. If it's not that and somebody starts at Lander in the beginning and goes 4 years, then we would still pick the last 2 years of that. So it doesn't have to be the flexible. 2 and 2. Yeah, it is. But it takes money to get there. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have to cough.
Do what? Oh, yeah, go ahead and cough.
Sorry.
The mission statement emphasizes a tuition-free path to educational and economic growth. Why is that important for the Promise? You're okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think I sucked in air.
Air will get you.
You got to talk a lot too, so.
Yeah, air will get you, folks. It'll sneak in when you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Repeat your question, I'm sorry.
Why is tuition free such an important aspect of the mission?
We actually had a student who is at Piedmont Tech. She'll be finishing in December. And I sent her an email asking her about something else. And completely unsolicited, she replied back with, I'm so thankful for everything that the Greenwood Promise has done for me. I did not even think that I was going to go to college because I didn't like high school very much. And she said, but now that I'm here, the Greenwood Promise came in, it supported me, and it removed that financial barrier to where all I had to worry about was focusing on my education, focusing on my studies and getting my work done. So
It's such a weight. I went through school. I did the whole loan and government grants with government loans and private loans and everything like that. And it's a burden.
It is a
It
burden.
really, really is, especially when you're coming out of there because, it's one thing to come out with a technical degree and go straight into a job and you can start paying down your stuff. But if you're in liberal arts, that can be a little bit more of a difficult
It can be hard,
transition. Yeah.
right. And then
So-
you're working in a different place than where you thought you would until you can find a job,
Right.
not making as much money,
Right.
but yet having this outstanding, often large student loan amount that you're having to pay back every month. So
that feels impossible to
that feels that is never
to
ending.
remove. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm sure all of this is really expensive. So where does the Greenwood Promise get its funding? Like what are we doing to keep this funded and keep it going?
This is probably one of my favorite things to talk about because it speaks a lot to the community of Greenwood. And I love to tell the students especially about this when I meet with them,
Yeah.
because sometimes they're unaware, or sometimes that they hear parts of things. They hear money, yours, free, that's kind of what they hear, and then they move on. The great thing about the Greenwood Promise is that when it started, way before it even started, when they were still in the planning stages, they did the feasibility study, they did a capital campaign. It is all businesses, residents, industries that are here in Greenwood who are giving money to these kids.
Wow.
The community of Greenwood County is investing in our kids' education future. It's amazing. People need to be excited about, I just have to say that, people need to be excited about this. This does not happen everywhere. You know what I
Right.
mean? The people of Greenwood think it is important enough to support education and for our kids to go into post-secondary and to get a college degree. You couldn't say more about a community.
I use it as a selling point for real estate.
100% use it as a selling point, yes.
Yeah,
Because
it
it is, it's important.
Yeah, it is.
And we want people to move in and we want them to stay.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
Do these schools take on any type of financial burden for the students that are there, or is it strictly outside funding?
Yeah, no,
Do they
it's,
discount or anything like that?
well, Greenwood County students already receive a $21 per credit hour cut as being a Greenwood County resident from Piedmont Tech. So there's that piece. And the Promise comes in and pays after any of the other financial stuff goes through, whatever's left. So other than that, no, the school is not, being burdened with any kind of fee or at all.
I got a question off the cuff.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
How do the students find out about the Greenwood Promise? Because that's really, is it offered? Sorry, is that offered on at Piedmont Tech? Do they kind of point people in that direction, or is it you're getting them in high school and educating them on what you guys are doing and how to, how go about applying for it? Or
There's a lot of different pieces. On my third day of work, Ron Melinder, who is my committee chair, he and I actually went down to 96 Primary School and we did the medallion ceremony where we placed medallions around the kids' necks for the kindergarten. They're class of 2031, by the way, this year.
Wow.
And we are telling them at that point when they get the medallions, this is our promise to you that when you graduate from high school, you will be able to go to college tuition free. So we start there. We hammer them in high school about making sure that they're aware of what they have. The guidance counselors are really supportive. The administration is really supportive. And now, since I'm kind of coming from the middle school area, I want to get into the middle schools this upcoming school year.
good.
And just hit it as much as I don't want any student in Greenwood County or anyone in Greenwood County to not know what they have here.
That's awesome.
And how to get involved with it.
Yeah. So you guys have a committee,
We do.
and it's kind of a hodgepodge committee. Like it's a little bit of everybody
It is.
from different places. What do they do? Why are they so diverse? Because it seems like they're diverse for a purpose, for a reason. Can you just kind of talk about what their function is and kind of why they have such a smattering of backgrounds?
Sure. So of course we have folks who are from Piedmont Tech, who are from the school districts in Greenwood. We have a representative from Lander. We have someone who started, she was on board, Julie Miner, she's at Connie Maxwell now,
Okay.
but she was with the Greenwood Partnership Alliance when the Promise idea was starting to bloom, and she remains focused and supportive of that, so she has stayed on. We have other folks who are big leaders in our community who were also in that same place at the beginning, who heard about it, thought about how wonderful it would be for Greenwood, and who said, yes, we want to stay on and support you. And basically what they do, oh God, they do so much, but they are a supporter of me, of the decisions that I make. They are a great spokesperson for the Promise. There are a lot of people who are on my committee who are out and about in Greenwood a lot, and they are our biggest promoter besides our students. They go out and they spread the word and they tell all the good things that are going on. So,
Okay.
and then of course they have the final say on what I do.
Right, of course, yeah. You got to answer to
Yeah.
the upper.
But honestly,
peeps.
and I'm not just saying this because I'm being recorded, but I love everybody who is on my board, who are on all of my subcommittees. They are, and I've known some of them from like being a teacher or being in the community, but I just enjoy going to a board meeting. I enjoy going to a subcommittee meeting because
Right.
I enjoy the people that are there and because they believe in the Promise.
And that's not super common. Not everybody loves their boards. In fact,
No,
that's
sometimes
often kind of a place of butting
cringeworthy.
heads.
Yeah.
So, what's the future of the Greenwood Promise beyond just phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? And how does that impact the future of Greenwood?
That's probably the biggest thing. If you can't find, maybe if your kids have graduated and they've gone and you've missed out on the opportunity. Maybe you are retired, but you used to work in manufacturing, but not really such a big deal now.
Right.
The biggest thing is that we are working towards building up a community that supports education, that supports a strong workforce. And when you see that kind of become the focus of it, we want to be proud of where we're from. We want to stay here. We want to buy houses, buy cars. We want to give back and start being volunteers. I have to tell this really quick story. At Senior Rush, a couple weeks ago from Greenwood High School, there was a student there, and she's going to Piedmont Tech. She's going to be a business major, and she is going to open up a hair shop. Basically, when she gets done, she's going to sell hair. She's going to sell hair products. She's a sweet, cute little girl. And she said she didn't know what the Greenwood Promise was or how it worked, where the money came from. And she said, when I get done with college and I open my business, I'm going to give money to the Greenwood Promise. So it is a pay it forward kind of thing. We kind of just start to really embrace the community that we have here, which is so awesome, and continue to pay it forward. And that changes everything,
Right.
People are happier, people are healthier, the community is robust and excited, so
Absolutely.
that's the end goal.
If I wanted let's say I had a kid and I wanted them to be a part of the Greenwood Promise, and this sounds great to me, how do I start? When do I start them? Are there tiers of involvement or anything like that?
So we have a slide and
look like?
residency scale
Yeah.
that kind of determines how much of the funding that you would receive from us. So if you start in Greenwood County as a Greenwood County resident, and I want to be clear about that too, it doesn't mean that you have to go to a Greenwood County school. You have to be a resident of Greenwood County.
Okay.
So if you're virtual school or if you go to governor's school, that still applies. Which some people think that you have to be in a school in Greenwood County.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why,
Yeah.
I love to make sure that everybody knows everything that we're doing. But if you start in kindergarten and you graduate and you stay with us the whole time in Greenwood County as a resident, then you get 100% of the funding. If you start in third grade, then we fund 95%, and then it starts to drop down, or 90%, and then it starts to drop down. The goal for that is to not only bring people in, but to want them to stay, for the long term, because they want to be here. They know that if they do this, 100% is funded. So if you wanted to know about that, you could always go to the website. If you Google the Greenwood Promise, South Carolina, it will come up. It's www.greenwoodpromise.com.
Okay.
It has all of my contact information on there. You could call the Greenwood Partnership Alliance. my office is there with them, so they
Right.
could connect you to me.
Yep.
But the website is a really good wealth of information. The kids
Awesome.
get started signing on. We're doing it earlier and earlier now. We're trying to make sure that we don't wait until the last minute and miss anybody. So we are getting like the elementary schools and the middle schools to give them the consent form
Right.
to say, hey, you can have my information when I go to school, and import it into our e-scholarship.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else that you kind of feel like we need to say about the Greenwood Promise that we might have missed so far?
Probably.
I mean,
and I'll
yeah.
probably think about it at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right,
Oh, I
yeah.
should have said that. Why did I not
Yeah.
think of that? The biggest thing is to be a supporter of it, to go out and tell
Right.
people about it, to encourage businesses to be a part of it. We're putting window decals on storefronts now, so you'll be able to walk, uptown or go to places in Greenwood and see who the supporters are. Go in and thank them for what they're doing for our kids in this community, and encourage others to do the same thing, because we don't get any money from the state or federal or county or anything like that, so we are
Right.
relying on our citizens and our businesses to do that for us.
Wonderful.
It is wonderful. It's a good thing.
So we are at Howard's on Main. They graciously let us have the entire upstairs to shoot today. Check out Howard's. They're a delicatessen. They've got sandwiches. They've got a great bar. They have incredible burgers.
And good breakfast. I
and
don't know.
good breakfast.
I come here for breakfast a good bit.
Yeah.
The grits are phenomenal.
I have heard that the breakfast is good. I've not been over here early enough to
We could come
to
here.
get it.
We could meet again and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
have breakfast.
Yeah, we'll come
We
again.
just ate lunch here, and I
Yep.
promise you, our burger was the biggest burger I've seen from
Yeah,
anywhere.
I'd say it's probably it's the best burger in Greenwood, I think.
Yeah, it was.
I'm sure the
really, really
Dixie
good.
doesn't like to hear that, but I think it
We'll say
is.
it, we'll say
It's
it.
okay.
But
It's
it was
okay.
really, really yummy. And
It was
they give you
huge.
these little chips with some kind of like
Oh.
tartar sauce or
Yeah,
something.
we have a name for that at work.
What is it
A
called?
crack dip.
Cracked it.
Yeah.
Because you just don't want to
You can't
ever
stop
stop.
eating
You
it,
can't stop
yeah.
eating it.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
And like it's like it's almost like mayonnaise, but it's almost tartar sauce, but it's not. It's like
Yeah,
this,
so I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
That's why it's a
It's good,
secret.
though, yeah.
Secret sauce.
Secret sauce.
And I think they have this up on the weekends for the top part up here.
They have live
They
music.
live music and
Yeah,
stuff like
they'll
that.
have live
Yeah.
music this weekend. I can't
Drums.
remember.
Brandon Smith is going to be playing
Brandon
here
Smith.
tonight, but by the time this airs, it's going to be
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
cool.
So talking about food places, any food recommendations in Greenwood that are kind of like, you don't have to do more than one or two, but just like your favorite kind of like hidden hot spots
I could be exposed.
or exposed. Yeah, sure. Just
They're probably not hidden,
Yeah.
but since my office is up here
Right.
in Uptown, of course I frequent the places, especially now that it's getting pretty outside. Walk to Millhouse, and I get the Titus loaded with all of the good meat.
yeah.
I come here.
We're a Fungus Among Us
A
fan
fungus
together.
among it,
yeah.
The name alone is awesome.
Yeah. It was actually an Incubus album back in the day. I don't know if you remember that band. Probably not.
I remember Incubus.
Yeah.
But I'm probably older.
No, that was my favorite. That was my favorite band growing up. So as soon as I saw that pizza, I was like, we got to get it.
The Cuban restaurant that's downstairs,
Yep.
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yep.
And I had never had Cuban food before, but their red beans and rice are so good.
And their Papas Rellenos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
delicious. And they have their own mojito sauce that they make there.
Yeah.
It's really good.
And any type of attraction around here that you like. It could be a fair or a park or whatever. We've got a lot of great stuff here in Greenwood.
I grew up on the lake,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why people have such a weird ish about the lake, but it's a great place to go out, and you can paddleboard, you can canoe, you can kayak, you can go on the
Yep.
boat, jet ski.
Yep.
It's just so fun.
Do a lot
That's
of
where I spent all my
fishing.
time.
Yep.
Yeah, growing up, we were always on the lake, and I have a son who's 14, and he's like, meh. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Go to the
It's all good.
lake.
Yeah.
Not everybody has a lake. It's beautiful.
Exactly. Well, we just have a couple seconds left. I just want to thank you for coming on today. I hope that you guys got a lot of good information from what she had to share. My name is David Bliss. This is Melissa Cowart and Katie Davenport from the Greenwood Promise.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.